Yes, you can. A podcast for high achievers. Hi, I'm Tammy North. I'm the owner of the Genuine Driven Women brand of businesses. The goal of this podcast is to help you become the best that you can be. Don't ever doubt the power you have to make the world a better place. Yes, you can make a difference. Before we get started today, I want to ask you, is there anyone you're mad at right now? Are you holding a grudge against anyone? This could be a really long-standing grudge, or it could be something that just happened fairly recently. Is there anyone you're holding responsible for some kind of slight or other wrongdoing that they've done to you? It could have been minor, or it could have been a life-changing type of event. Is there anyone you feel has been holding you back, not believing in you, or in some way thwarting your forward progress? Are you holding them accountable for that? Now think about all the people around you. Is there anyone not doing their part, not pulling their load, not giving as much to the world as they could be or maybe should be? Have you spent any of your own time judging them, talking about them, or focusing on how they are not being their best self? Take time to consider all of this and think very hard about all the feelings in your head and be honest about who these people might be, about who you might be angry with, about who you might be holding a grudge against, or about who you might be judging negatively. These people might be parents, children, spouses, partners, neighbors, friends, coworkers. They could be something as serious as a criminal, a truly evil person who may have harmed you. They might just be someone you came across in the grocery store who frustrated you more than usual. These days, they could be random people on social media or a politician you've never even met. But here's the hardest concept of all. Maybe the person you are most angry with about something that's gone wrong in your life is you. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about why forgiveness, which can sometimes be a very difficult process, is so critical if you truly want to become the absolute best version of yourself. All you have to do is a quick search for true crime drama or watch a based on a true story Lifetime movie on TV to find plenty of examples of people who felt they were wronged, but then made it their life's purpose to hurt those who caused them pain. These stories are often driven by twisted love, the need to control, plus throw in a little anger and deep jealousy. But on a less grand scale, have you ever met somebody who's probably not going to become true crime fodder, but still a very bitter person? They're focused on what their life is never going to become, compared to everything they dreamed about that it could be in their past. Maybe they got divorced against their wishes, or maybe there's some type of health crisis in their family, or maybe they just made certain decisions through their own life that dimmed many of their options along the way. What if these people had put all of the energy that they spend on negativity into improving their own life rather than trying to ruin someone else's, or at least wish that someone else's life was ruined? So let's talk through an anecdote to get us started. I know a person who wanted to be an astronaut when she graduated from high school, but she got married instead, and by the age of 22, she had 2 children. She never went to college, and she didn't leave her small town until the children grew up. Although she did become pretty successful in spite of her mild delay in entering the workforce, and also in spite of her lack of her college degree. She got divorced, she got married again, and then also there were several health-related family impacts between her and her new husband. But still, they persevered, they worked hard, and they created a beautiful world that's a testament to their combined abilities and their pure grit. Yet, if you talk to this amazing lady now, in her more senior years, she's pretty bitter, to the degree that her entire family walks on eggshells around her, because they never know when she's going to begin yelling at them for something they said, when they didn't even want to enter into that topic of conversation in the first place. Yeah, she'll start a conversation and then she'll become very angry, throwing things, cussing, hanging up phone calls, and stomping off when people don't 100% agree with what she said. And if you look back on her entire life about why this might be happening, there are some reasons it could have caused this. She grew up when it was much harder for women in the workforce, so she had a hard time. Even though she became very successful, there were years and years of struggle in there. She got married when that was what was expected of young ladies. Her husband divorced her when she was idealistic and believed that marriage was forever, and left her with young children to take care of. And then there's the health-related problems that have impacted her family and have also caused a strain in many different ways on their future possibilities. And yeah, I think some of this has impacted the way and the fullness to which they've been able to experience life. Given all that, and I didn't go into much detail, but given all that, she has many people that she probably needs to forgive. And it's clear that she hasn't really forgiven anyone. And I know she probably needs to forgive old co-workers. She needs to forgive politicians, even politicians in the news currently. She needs to forgive neighbors in some cases. She needs to forgive her current husband. She needs to forgive her ex-husband, definitely, because that's been decades. And she needs to forgive her children for whatever they've done. Probably her siblings. She also probably needs to forgive some of her children's family members. And most importantly, she definitely needs to forgive herself. It's exhausting to be angry all the time. And it's also exhausting for people who love you and are around you to have to deal with this anger. So how do you avoid ending your life as that type of person? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is forgiveness? The Oxford Dictionary defines forgiveness as a process of forgiving. And the definition of forgive is to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, a flaw, or a mistake. Psychologists generally define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or a group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. That's independent. Because trust me, if you forgive somebody, the benefits to the forgiver are far more than the benefits to those who are actually forgiven. The theologian Lewis Smead said, "To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you." Why is it important to forgive? Yeah, the reason I chose this topic today, the reason I really want to talk to you about how important it is to forgive is because I do come across people many times in my daily life who are deeply angry. Either it's something that happened a long time ago, or even sometimes something that just happened yesterday. They're surprisingly angry, and they spend so much energy on that if they could just learn to forgive and move forward, that they would actually get much further in life and overcome whatever wrong was done to them much faster than sitting around just being angry about it. I truly want you to rise and have your best positive impact in this world. What good is all the success, beautiful houses, and money if you're too bitter and angry to enjoy any of it? And on the other hand, if you're truly able to free yourself from the shackles of anger and vengeance that have been weighing you down, you will be free to become a lighter, freer version of yourself. Your mind will be free to dream and grow. Each of us was created to be powerful and to create beautiful things in this world. But bitterness is like a dark, heavy curtain keeping out the sunlight. Your mind is not able to consider new and enlightening ideas if it's consumed with anger and resentment. If you learn to forgive and move forward from those who have caused you pain or wronged you in some way, you will become healthier and happier. Learning to truly forgive will also reduce anger, which can cause serious damage or even prevent good, healthy future relationships to grow. It will also impact your health due to stress-related impacts. If you are a person who wants to have a big positive impact on the world, forgiveness will clear your path, clear your mind. It will allow you freedom to dream, believe, and move forward toward your life's goals. By forgiving somebody else, you actually take your power back from them. The other person will no longer have control over your emotions. When you demonstrate hate, anger, or spend any time mulling over feelings of resentment, that means there is somebody else who is controlling you. They are like a heavy stone that you are carrying, and the weight of that situation is weighing you down. They are holding you back from all you are capable of providing to this world. Forgiveness on both sides is key to moving forward in a relationship that you value. For instance, if you're a husband and a wife, or if you're partners, you each need to learn to forgive each other if you actually care about this relationship and you want to stay in this relationship. And if either side cannot forgive a real or even perceived wrong, then the relationship is in jeopardy, honestly, and hard decisions are going to have to be made. This is true if the relationship is a friend, a partner, a family member, or a coworker. As long as one of you doesn't trust the other, or as long as one of you refuses to forgive the other, it is almost impossible to move forward in any good way. Forgiveness will directly impact your immune system for the worse. This is because anger and resentment will manifest as a type of stress. According to WebMD, if stress drags on for a long time, it makes you more vulnerable to illness from colds due to serious diseases. Chronic stress exposes your body to a steady stream of stress hormones that suppress your immune system, and then thereby opens you up to all types of illnesses. Also, forgiveness is a trait of a good person, one who's moving forward in the world, one who is here to make the world a better place. When you forgive, you now ready yourself to move forward. But when you hold on to anger and resentment, you are allowing the past to keep its claws in you. Live in the present and dream about the future, and put past transgressions in your rearview mirror. A lack of forgiveness and a drive toward revenge will bring darkness. Confucius said, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. It's pretty dark, but that's what we're talking about. You have too much to do in this life to be held back by thoughts of anger or even revenge. It is time to let it go because you love yourself. It's time to release your anger. Don't do it for anyone other than the future you who is ready to change the world. So let's talk about who you should forgive. You should forgive others, like coworkers, strangers, friends. Some of these might be mild things like you perceive a coworker's talking about you behind your back, or maybe you think that they're lazy. You don't know everything that's going on with that person. So try to just forgive them. If you think you're working harder than they are, you just be you, worry about yourself, and let them go. That's all you can do. If some of your friends don't treat you the way you think they should, or if they've done something to you specific, then you need to make a decision. Are they the type of friends you want in your life? But either way, you forgive them and you work on the relationship, or you forgive them and let the relationship go. Because forgiveness does not mean necessarily forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean that you have to reconcile with any person. You can forgive people and let them go at the same time. If the stranger was somebody who was a criminal or some other very evil person, that might be hard work. But you really need to forgive them. And I think we'll talk about later on in the episode some tactics about how you might go about doing that. And again, depending on how bad the transgression was, it could be as bad as very severe crime, even to something like murder or something like that. But if you hang on to that anger for the rest of your life, it will be as if there were 2 lives taken. And I don't say that lightly, but also I do realize that just a simple podcast is probably not going to be enough to solve your problems. So I would encourage you to go seek help with a psychologist or somebody else in order to work through this. But please take the time and do the work to forgive and to move forward, just so that your life wasn't also taken. You should forgive your family members, parents, siblings, other relatives. A lot of times people blame their parents for something that happened in their life, or maybe a brother or a sister. But one thing I want to say is you have responsibility for your own life. And if you go back and listen to my episode about man's search for meaning with Dr. Frankel, no matter where you find yourself in your life, you have control over your own life from that point forward. No matter what a parent did to you, no matter what a sibling did to you, no matter in what circumstances you grew up in, you have to decide at some point that you're taking responsibility for yourself and that you are going to move forward from that point. So it's important also to forgive your family, even though you may not be satisfied with some things. You must forgive them. They probably did the best they could, and even if they didn't, you can't control them and you can't rewind time or fix them. All you can control is yourself and the way you move forward in this world from here on. Also, you need to forgive your spouse or partner or whomever is your most important relationship. You can hold on to things that you're angry about from last week, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, but you really need to forgive each other. Otherwise, your marriage will rot from the inside out. And forgiving isn't always easy. I'm talking about this in this podcast as if it's something like, oh, just say you forgive them. No, there's a process to work through. And depending on how big or small the issue is with your spouse, it may or may not be that simple. But you have to ask yourself sometimes, are you getting mad about every little thing? And is it possible for you to just go forward with a more open, forgiving, gentle heart? But then also, if there's been something really big and hurtful in your relationship, is it possible to forgive that? And if you really want to be in this relationship, the only way to move forward is complete forgiveness. You can't hold it over their head. You can't say you forgive them today, but then remind them about it every 6 months. No, you have to forgive them completely in your heart and your soul and your mind and move forward. And they have to forgive you as well for whatever thing they perceive that you've done to them. And that is the only way to move forward. And then let's say it doesn't work out and you end up divorced or broken up, depending on the situation. You have to forgive that person even in that situation, because I know people who've been divorced for 20, 30, 40 years and are still angry. I honestly cannot comprehend I can't even fathom it, what it's like to be angry for that long. You just, all of that brain power, you would literally have to work to stay mad at somebody for 40 years. Please, you've got to let that go. You have got to just free yourself. These are all shackles, barnacles, stones weighting you down. You would like to flow through this water just streamlined and clean and fresh. And the only way that is going to happen is if you forgive, if you let the anger go. And then most importantly, you need to forgive yourself. You've done things, you've made mistakes, you've made choices. There are things that you have done that you regret deeply. There are decisions you've made to date a specific person or spend some amount of money or hurt another one of your friends or somebody you love. And you can work with them if you've hurt somebody, you can work with them and hopefully they'll forgive you. But even if they don't, you do need to forgive yourself at some point because you are the only one you can control. And you can make a determination that you're going to go forward and you're going to learn from that situation and not do it again. But you cannot keep beating yourself up for things that you've done in the past. You have got to forgive yourself. That is the most important of all. Otherwise, you will never be able to shine like you were meant to shine. So what if you decide, no, I'm not going to forgive? What are the impacts of not forgiving? The most important one is if you choose not to forgive, if you choose to actively remain angry, then bitterness will take root and grow within you. Essentially, if you use your energy to hold a grudge against someone, evil and negativity will grow. Think of when you've been mad at somebody for a lengthy period. Think of how dark your thoughts have roamed in those times. Eventually, you'll become a hardened person who is frequently angry, vindictive, and short-fused. You will eventually isolate yourself and then you will become overrun with self-pity. So how do you know if you have become angry and bitter? So I'm going to describe an angry and bitter person. When you are never, ever happy, no matter how hard people try, there is no way to please you. So be honest with yourself. Sometimes if you are an angry and bitter person, you probably try to manipulate people and if they try really hard, they try to please you, but you will never be pleased. For some reason, you just feel deep-seated hatred. I mean, actual loathing for another person. You throw a pity party every chance you get. Life has let you down. You've always gotten the raw end of the deal and you blame others for everything. If only this person hadn't done that. If only I hadn't married this person. If only I hadn't have been cheated. No doubt my life would have been better. But even when there's no reason at all, you will find a way to spark a fight. You lose your temper and you say the meanest things you can possibly think of. You go to a worst case scenario and generally make the other person feel as bad as you feel at your core, at your deep, dark core. You might feel better for a moment, maybe like you've had some type of vindication, and you might feel that you had every right to behave in that manner, but this is how you will push everyone away who loves you and who wants to be in your life. Do you feel like everyone is out to get you? Have you become vindictive? Bitter people often spend an incredible amount of time trying to get back at those who they believe have hurt them or disrespected them. They have a strong desire to cause anguish in the lives of those whom they believe have neglected them. And your bitterness drowns out all chance of hope and joy. You cannot remember the last time you felt genuinely happy for another person or their success. Their success or happiness simply highlights all the ways your life has been so unfair. So if you feel like this, you are probably angry and bitter and it's time to work on forgiving somebody. However, I kind of have the feeling that if you are truly an angry, bitter person, you're probably not listening to this podcast. I could be wrong, and I hope that if one of you really does feel like this, that we've had the opportunity to make you think of a few things and consider saying you forgive somebody, because all it takes is one drop, one little piece of light that comes in to start rooting out all the darkness. But the reason I put this full description in here is because just one little piece of anger that you're kind of hanging on to can actually bloom into this entire piece of darkness. It can grow until you rot from the inside out. So it's important to start forgiving now so that by the time you are 70 or 80, you are not a person who is full of anger, but you can be a person who has nothing but gratitude and appreciativeness about your entire life that you've led to that point, even the parts that weren't good, because you can learn something from the good and the bad. If you are one of these people who is this angry, you can learn to work through the process of forgiveness. As we mentioned in the beginning, it is definitely a process. And at times it will be so difficult, you are not sure how you will ever get there or how long it will take. That is going to be something for you to work through. If you have a bad enough situation and you do not feel confident that you can address this on your own, then this is an excellent reason to go see a counselor or a psychologist. It will be worth the time and money as an investment in your future you. If you are deeply bitter, it is holding you back from something. Even if you're thinking you're using your anger to protect yourself, the negative impacts far outweigh any benefit that you're receiving from your angry barrier. So let's talk about the steps to forgiveness. First, if you believe that you have something that you need to forgive somebody for, then I would like you first to allow yourself to feel what has happened to you. Just because we forgive somebody doesn't mean that you weren't hurt. Acknowledge that you were hurt. Acknowledge the wrong that was done to you and be honest with how you feel. In a journal or on a piece of paper, write down what happened to you and the reason that you have not yet forgiven the other person. Why are you hanging on to this anger today? If you like, you can pause this podcast and work on that now, or you can come back to this podcast later. But take some time to actually work through that activity. And then 2, I want you to make a clear decision that you will forgive. As you wrote down all of that information about why you haven't yet forgiven this person, it is time to decide you will forgive. You can make that a goal in your goal planner if you like. Make a decision to forgive. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't even matter what the person you are deciding to forgive thinks. They may or may not deserve your forgiveness, but even that is not your concern. You can only control you. You make this decision to forgive. It is for you and you alone. Be clear about why you want to forgive this person. Write about it in your journal as well. The reasons why that you feel you should forgive this person. Are you truly motivated to forgive this person? For good. Not just with words, but with your whole heart. Forgiveness does not necessarily mean reconciling with the person who upset you or condoning his or her actions. In forgiveness, you seek the peace and understanding that will come from blaming people less after they offend you and taking those offenses less personally. So the more you forgive, the more you will forgive. And the more you forgive the less you will blame anybody for anything. And you will actually just take your power completely into yourself and you will move forward in spite of what anybody else does. Get the right perspective on what is happening. Recognize that your primary distress is coming from the hurt feelings, thoughts, and physical upset that you are suffering now, right this minute, not from what hurt you 10 years ago. As I mentioned, I know many people who were divorced 40 years ago, but yet they are still surprisingly just as angry today as if it had happened yesterday. Just imagine the energy it takes to try to stay that mad, to try to stay that angry and bitter for so long. Okay, so at the moment that you feel upset, when you start remembering that you're mad, practice stress management techniques to relieve your body's fight or flight response. This could be like taking deep breaths and doing other mindful breathing exercises. Take a walk outside, or do whatever is most effective for you. You might want to practice some meditation or yoga. Those are some really great thoughts. There's plenty of apps on your phone for mindfulness and stress management. And also if you have like an Apple Watch or something like that, all these smartphones and smartwatches have a lot of great ways to help you work through moments of stress. So why don't you start thinking about some of those? It's amazing how if you just take 1 minute and just take several deep breaths for 1 minute and focus on something peaceful and serene, how you can immediately calm yourself down. And if you don't believe me, I dare you to try it. Okay, and then in the future, you should give up on expecting things from your life or from other people that they do not choose to give you. For instance, if you want somebody to love you, but they don't. If you want somebody to be your friend, but they're not. If you want to be rich, but you aren't. You can't control any of that. All you can control is you. And the more you try to control other people and try to get them to take actions that they don't want to take, the only person who really suffers is you. Because you don't have the power to make this happen. All you can do is take control of your own life and move your own path forward. What you can do is put your energy into looking for another way to get your positive goals met other than through the experience that has hurt you. Let's say you were working at a certain company and you didn't get a promotion that you highly expected you would get. Okay, that hurts, but what you can do is to look to another opportunity or another company to see if you can find another way. If you really truly believe that you have the experience and the capability and that you should have been promoted, perhaps you can do that some other way. Or if you were in a very painful breakup, but you really are, having a companion in a good relationship is very important, then one of the best things you can do is just live your life well and go out into the world and do the things that you enjoy doing. And the odds are very high that you're going to find somebody who enjoys doing the same things you enjoy doing. And if you can go forward without anger and bitterness, you're more likely to find a person who is there ready to be energetic and positive and motivated into moving toward a future with you. And it's easier to do that and better to do that by just living your life and don't focus as much on what actually hurt you. Remember, a life well lived is your best revenge. Instead of focusing on your wounded feelings and giving power over to the person who caused you pain, look for love, beauty, and kindness all around you. Put more energy into appreciating what you have rather than thinking about what you don't have. You can also kind of turn around the way you look at your past so you remind yourself of your heroic choice to forgive. Like you can say, wow, that person really hurt me, but I have forgiven them and I am proud. Like you're like standing on a hill with a big scepter and you're like, da, 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 I have forgiven this person. And you can be proud of that. And so just think about that. Like you're the hero of forgiveness. And just think of how proud that is. And you can even tell people, I forgave them. And they might think you're crazy. But you know the reason you did it had nothing to do with them. It had to do with yourself. One good technique is to think about your future self, and what it would feel like and be like if you do forgive that person. What are all of the possibilities if that person was forgiven, and how you would feel if you no longer were full of anger and hate. And if desired, you can genuinely reconnect with the person that you've decided to forgive in a positive way. If that's what you want and if that's what they want, and you have both forgiven each other, then you can move forward. So imagine for a moment that you've been walking for miles and miles, carrying a very large stone. You've walked up steep embankments. You've walked across the hot sand. You've walked across rivers. And now you are tired. You are sick of carrying this. You see something up in the distance that you really want, but you don't think you can get there while you're carrying this stone. You're so tired. You're about to give up. But now imagine casting this stone aside off the road to your right. Just take it over there and drop it. Then imagine the feeling when you begin to walk away as you feel the relief of no longer carrying that heavy burden. Maybe just for a second, you still feel this stiffness in your back or the twang of the way the stone scraped your arm. But as you stretch your arms and you stretch your back, even these minor aches fade away until you feel nothing but good. You feel free. And you think you're ready to run, skip, and jump down the road. And so this is a very practical example of how good the gift of forgiveness will feel as you step forward toward the life you want to create and the person you want to become. Yes, you can remain a martyr, proudly carrying your anger like a badge to show the suffering of your past, or you can cast your bitterness to the ground and walk across it, above it, or over it until you have left it in your dust. You are now ready to go forward with a new sense of who you are, powerful beyond a measure. Holding a grudge and forgiving are both actually very powerful actions. The difference is that one of them will rot you from the inside out, and the other will set you free to become who you were meant to be. Especially if the person to be forgiven is you. It is time. It is time to shed all that is holding you back. Girl, you were born to change the world. Do the work to set your dreams free, and then chase them with intense focus and zero regret. You can connect with us on Facebook at Genuine Driven Women, or to learn more about what we offer, check out genuinedrivenwomen.com.